You're a biased, dishonest network. I'm done. Thank you, darling. Have a good day.
Mr. President, please. I traveled all the way to Wisconsin.
A country can never be great with a dishonest president.
We traveled all over Wisconsin for this interview.
Donald Trump caused a scandal in the interview by calling the journalist stupid, ignorant, and bought off. Well, then he tore off the microphone and, interrupting the interview, left. But still, during this interview, Trump managed to make several important statements, and they turned out to be no less scandalous. Well, for example, that Americans who stormed and seized the Capitol on January 6, 2021 will be paid financial compensation. He promised that now he definitely won't start any more wars. He stated that all his campaign promises not to start wars, he never said anything like that, so you probably just imagined it. But then he also started, for some reason, praising and admiring the Iranian leader Majtaba Khamenei. So, on Sunday, June 7, President Donald Trump suddenly and scandalously interrupted an interview on Meet the Press. After he defended potential payments to those held accountable for the events of January 6 and warned that slow negotiations with Iran could lead to renewed U.S. military action. By the way, what's happening right now in the Middle East I covered in my previous episode. I recommend you watch it. Although, let me remind you, it was Trump who allowed the situation where negotiations could go on forever. But first, I'll show you that very scandalous clip. The interview where Trump disrupts the interview, insults the journalist, rips off the microphone, and storms off. The point is that Trump once again went back to his favorite topic, the stolen election, and tried to push his idea of a new electoral system. He says that the current one is bad, that's why all these scandals happen. He says, last time I definitely won, but the election was stolen from me. And then something went wrong and he started causing a scene. First, I'll give you the translation and then you can listen to these emotions yourself so that the translation doesn't overlap. I'll read it to you first and then you'll see the real emotions. Trump says, "Do you think it's appropriate that they hold elections and 5 days later they haven't even come close to determining the winner? State and local officials admit that they're working slowly rather than calling for a quick vote count. That's how they vote in California. They're dishonest, just like you. Your press is dishonest and the Meet the Press program is also dishonest." The journalist says, "But let's move on." He says, "No, you're playing into their hands." The journalist replies, "Let's move on." He, Trump, says, "You're either dishonest or stupid." The journalist says, "Let's move on." Trump, you're playing into their hands with all this. You know these elections are rigged. Your channel knows they're rigged. I won a clear victory in the election, 94-94-94. I mean, the pieces about me were negative. Journalist, but Mr. President, you have never presented any evidence. Trump says, "And do you know why? Because I have no trust in you at all." Journalist, but you have never presented any evidence that the elections were rigged. Okay, let's keep talking about this. I want to talk about Todd Lynch. You have more evidence, more than has ever been presented. Journalist, yes. Let's talk about that. Your elections in this country. We are like a third world country. Trump snaps. Your elections are unfair, and you are dishonest, and all the press is dishonest, and ABC and CBS and CNN, all of you are dishonest. Let's wrap this up, because I've had enough. Thank you, dear. Have a good time. Journalist, Mr. President, please let's continue. I came all the way to Wisconsin. Trump, and I sat with you in the rain. Journalist, yes, I know. Trump, I sat with you in the rain for a whole hour. Journalist, you need to get your press in order, because you know what? The country will never be great if the press is dishonest. Well, now take a look at this very interesting exchange in the original.
Journalist.
Do you think it's appropriate that they have an election and 5 days later they're nowhere close to picking a...
Imagine local officers admit that they are slow. They demand no.
They're crooked.
They're urging the votes to be counted quickly. That's how they vote in California. Just like you're crooked, your press is crooked, and Beat the Press's work. They are crocodiles.
Just like you, crocodiles. Your presses are crocodiles, and meet with crocodile presses.
To be fair, I'm not crooked.
But let's just play right into their hands.
Let's continue.
You're either crooked or you're stupid. You play right into their hands with this reputation. You know that these elections are rigged. Your network knows that they're rigged. You know that I won an election in a landslide and I got 94% bad press.
But Mr. President, you know why I got that? You have no credibility and haven't shown evidence it was rigged. Let's keep talking. I want to discuss Todd.
You have more evidence. There's more evidence than ever presented.
Let's talk about it.
There are elections in this country. We're like a third world country. Your elections are crooked and you're crooked. At least the press is crooked. And so is ABC and CBS and CNN.
But Mr. President,
You're a biased, dishonest network. Let's just end this. I've had enough. Thank you, darling. Have a good day.
Mr. President, please. I traveled all the way to Wisconsin. I sat through the rain. I know. I traveled to Wisconsin.
On and off in the rain, and I've given you enough time. You should fix your press because the country can't be great with a dishonest mister.
President, your dishonesty. Listen, he traveled all the way to Wisconsin for the synagogue.
Nevertheless, Donald Trump still managed to say quite a bit. The interview on NBC touched on two topics that will likely be discussed this week. These are the scale of his operation in Iran and the question of whether taxpayer money should be allocated, get this, to help people whom he portrays as victims of political persecution. Trump stated that many people prosecuted for the events of January 6, namely the storming of the Capitol in 2021, quote, should be compensated individually. The proposed fund, which is almost $1.8 billion, grew out of Trump's agreement with the U.S. Tax Service regarding the leak of his tax returns. This is a really interesting and shady scheme by Trump, and I also have a separate episode about it on this channel. This fund faced almost immediate resistance from both parties because Trump wants to distribute these nearly $2 billion of government money to his supporters. Well, in fact, this can be considered a bribe. At first, but Trump says that we will pay money to those who have been politically persecuted. For example, those who stormed and seized the Capitol by force in January 2021. These are political people who were politically persecuted, according to Donald Trump. Then, Trump initially told NBC that he is not inclined to support payments to those who attacked police officers. And then in this interview, he lashed out with criticism at those very police officers. And he said, quote, you had a lot of crooked cops. You had dirty cops. Comey was a dirty cop. I don't know what will happen with the fund, but I like this idea. He means payments to those who stormed the Capitol. As for Iran, Donald Trump said that his red line for resuming strikes would be when, in his opinion, the deal is not made quickly enough. I should note that the White House is now trying to secure a memorandum of understanding with Iran to end the war and then begin deeper nuclear negotiations. And further in this interview, Donald stated that under the agreement, American troops could help remove and destroy highly enriched uranium. Without an agreement, in his words, quote, we will destroy them very harshly by military means. And the funniest thing in this interview wasn't even the scandal, not this argument with the journalist, no. But Donald Trump's statement that he will not allow a single war anymore. Answering a question about his campaign promise not to start new wars, Trump said, quote, I never promised anything like that, and stated that the operation against Iran is not an endless war. Here's the quote. You know, maintaining 50,000 American servicemen who are now in the Middle East doesn't cost us very much. I think we'll keep them there until their deployment is complete. That's Donald Trump in a nutshell. Before the election, he loudly claimed that he wouldn't start any wars, that he was different from all previous presidents, that he came to bring peace to this planet. And now he brazenly says, listen, I never said that. It's like when he said, I'll end Russia's war against Ukraine in 24 hours, then he says, no, I didn't say it like that, I didn't. Well, yeah, I twisted it a bit, but come on, no, did you really believe that I'd end the war in a day? End the war? Are you even in your right mind? Now he says, I never said anything like that when I said I wouldn't start a war.
You say that I believed. I didn't believe anything. I don't like when there are these endless wars. This is not an endless war. We've been doing this for 3 months. Most of it has taken the shape of a fairly effective ceasefire. The blockade has been amazing. Our Navy is amazing.
But then Trump surprised us even more. Trump unexpectedly praised the supreme leader of Iran, Ayatollah Muhammad Khamenei, for, quote, undeniable courage, for continuing to participate in negotiations despite serious injuries. Trump confirmed that Khamenei, quote, is participating in the process of approving the deal. He called Muhammad Khamenei more rational than his father. However, as far as is known, Trump and the Ayatollah have never communicated directly. How he can make such an assessment is unknown. Trump also stated that he does not require Lebanon to be included in the short-term deal with Iran, although he did say that he wants a more targeted strike against Hezbollah. And finally, when the journalist Welker mentioned the difficulties American farmers have with paying for fertilizers, Trump completely rejected this claim and stated, and hold on to your seats or wherever you're sitting, quote, yeah, that's nonsense. Farmers are doing very well? Trump insisted that farmers personally trust him and will fully understand the increase in gas prices and the rise in fertilizer costs. Because according to Trump, they fully understand that Trump is trying to put an end to Iran's nuclear program. That is, Trump directly stated, listen, yes, prices are rising, gas is getting more expensive, fertilizers are getting more expensive, it's hard for everyone right now. But according to Trump, everyone understands him, loves him, and supports him. And that's why they are ready to endure all these inconveniences. Well, that's basically how Trump's interview turned out. It wasn't long, it was interrupted, but nevertheless, as you can see, he still managed to say quite a lot.